Mike Florio is a busy man, but he carved out 5 minutes to spend with us and share his wisdom. Mike from Pro Football Talk and the NBC Sports Network, he joins us. Let me start with...
Hey, first of all, Dan, it'll take a lot less than 5 minutes for me to share my wisdom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't have much.
Oh, look
That's
at
the
that.
point.
Look at that. And delivering
Gotta start with a little
punchlines.
self-deprecation
I like
in
it.
honor of Lou Holtz.
I like Jesus Christ. All right. Vontaze Burfict punishment. Overreaction or appropriate?
I think it's appropriate. Look, there's an appeal process that is fully independent. It's either going to be James Thrash or Derek Brooks resolving this thing. People still think NFL judge, jury, and execution are not for things of this nature. I think they did what they needed to do. I'm going to be intrigued, Dan, by what happens with some of the other participants in that debacle from Saturday night, including the two assistant coaches from Pittsburgh, Mike Munchak with the hair pull of Reggie Nelson and Joey Porter out there chirping at Bengals players and getting them just stirred up enough to pick up an extra 15 yards of field position.
The Antonio Brown concussion protocol, when does he have to – they have to decide if he's cleared concussion protocol to – because the Broncos aren't buying into the Antonio Brown is not going to play in this game.
It could just be that he's really committed to his craft. I mean, he really wants to win that Grammy from Pac-Man Jones, so he's gonna play this thing all the way out. Look, there are different levels of the protocol. You have to get cleared to practice. You have to get cleared to engage in certain types of activity, get cleared for contact. Ultimately, you got to be cleared by an independent neurologist to go out and play. So they still have 5 more days. They got that extra day. They played Saturday, and they don't play until Sunday. So usually it's Sunday to Sunday or Monday to Sunday. They have an extra day, and that extra day could make all the difference for any and all symptoms he may be having to subside.
You think he'll play?
I'd be shocked if he doesn't play. I really would be, especially if he was up and winking at Pac-Man Jones. And Peter said on Sunday when we did the pregame show that Brown was telling players afterward he feels fine. Now, I know there's a lot of complicated things that go into whether and to what extent the brain heals from a concussion, but I'd be surprised if we don't see him.
Joey Porter, Mike Munchak, you mentioned not suspended but maybe fined?
Oh, they have to be fined. I agreed with Pac-Man yesterday when he told you that these coaches are held to a higher standard. They have to be held to a higher standard. This isn't a player problem as much as it's a team and coach problem. They tolerate this kind of stuff. Bill Belichick would never tolerate a Vontaze Burfict. He'd get 1 or 2 screw-ups, and that would be it. And so you keep that guy around, you keep coaches around doing that kind of stuff. It's on to the teams and the coaches to police the players and police themselves. So I think Munchak and Porter both need to be fined for what they did.
If the Bengals had won, do you think Burfict would have been suspended?
Oh, that would have been a great question because there was talk of suspending him for that hit on Max Williams that he was fined $50,000 for, and nobody knew that until yesterday. The Bengals knew it, all the more reason to control this guy, but they didn't suspend him for that. And when you say, I don't know if you've seen that pop on Max Williams, but given Burfict's history, I'm a little surprised he wasn't suspended for the playoff game. And that's a great point, Dan. Would it be a 3-game suspension? Would it be a 1-game suspension? I have a feeling it wouldn't be 3 games, and I also have a feeling that he'd have a better case on appeal if he was potentially missing postseason games.
Rick Neuheisel was on First Hour, and he said he wouldn't be surprised if the Giants make an offer to present to Nick Saban, whether it's an offer he can refuse. What do you think the Giants would do in that situation, and is there an offer Saban can't refuse?
Well, the Giants pursued Saban in 1996, and the issue then was control, and the issue now is control. He would want to come in and run the show, and they've decided to keep Jerry Reese as GM. And even if they were getting rid of Jerry Reese, I don't know that they'd want to depart from the structure of having a general manager and a head coach, and typically the GM with more juice than the coach. I think that's the impediment to Nick Saban going to New York, unless he just decides, you know what, I'll just go in under whatever parameters they give me, and I'll just take over once I get there, like Chip Kelly did in Philadelphia.
What about Tampa?
Oh, that's the one that I think makes the most sense.
Yeah, me too.
Look, if this suspicion is accurate that they're just going to promote Dirk Cutter into the job, why don't they do it? Why didn't they already do it? I think they're waiting to see if Nick calls today. You have a lot more leverage in those negotiations if Nick Saban's the one who calls you up and says, you got Jameis Winston. I tried to get him to Alabama, and he went to Florida State. He's a pretty good quarterback, and, I understand now the only way I'm going to win in the NFL is if I have a pretty good quarterback. So it wouldn't shock me if he rolls out of bed today or tomorrow and is at least intrigued by the possibility, because he's only going to come back to the NFL if he's got a great quarterback, and there's a chance Jameis Winston's a great quarterback.
All right, final minute here. Clear up the latest on the NFL in Los Angeles.
Chargers-Rams, it's going to be Inglewood or Carson. I think that's what we're down to now. Anything can change, and things have changed, but Jerry Jones has brokered this forced marriage between the Chargers and the Rams, and now the fight's going to be whether they go to Stan Kroenke's playground in Inglewood or whether they go with the Carson Project. And Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, is going to be making a very strong case today to the owners to pick Carson over Inglewood.
But they're partnered now. It's going to be the Rams and Chargers.
They're going to be forced together. They're going to be welded together thanks to Jerry Jones, because that's the only way they can get 24 votes.
It
get
makes
24
sense.
votes for Chargers only or Rams only.
Yeah, I agree. It makes sense. The big stumbling block, the Chargers want to be equal partners in this, and if they go into Kroenke's building, they're not going to be.
They'll be partners in the building, but they won't be partners in all the other stuff around the building from which Kroenke's going to make a ton of money.
Raiders threatening to go to San Antonio. You buying that?
I'm not buying it. I think Raiders trying to the Raiders are going to get enough money out of this relocation process to build a stadium in Oakland, but it's smart to try to leverage Oakland into doing something. I mean, because Oakland could just sit back now and say, hey, problem solved. We don't have to come up with anything. The NFL is going to spend all the money to build the stadium. Go ahead, fine with us. So I still think there's a game going on here to get Oakland to come to the table with something.
He shared his wisdom for 6 minutes and 16 seconds. Mike Florio, Pro Football
I'm on
Talk.
fumes, Dan.
Yeah, I had the under, but you went over. Thank you, Mike.
See you, buddy.
All right, Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk.